Hello friends, I am Sanket. Our today's topic is iOS application data storage. So now this topic is used to store a data in a locally in your application. So now let's try to discuss about the local database storage. So now here the most widely used a method for the local storage implementation in, so now actually you can see there are the four different types of options are there. So now first is a SQLite, second one is property list, third one is core data, and fourth one is NSUserDefaults. So now let's try to one by one. So now first for the SQLite. So now SQLite is a powerful and lightweight C library that is embedded in an iOS application. Now for the local database storage, now SQLite is a most popular library in our iOS application development. Now this same library is used for in Android application development also. So now in Android you have to use also SQLite library for the local database storage. Now this is a use in a various application across a various platform, including you can see the Android and iOS platform also. Now SQLite is used for the low level relational database. So now for the local database storage you have to use this library. Now SQLite, it's a inbuilt library, it's provided by our Xcode. So now whenever you use a local database storage, at that time you have to use the SQLite. Now next one is property list, it means plist. So now in your application you have to see one file, it's a info.plist. So now for the local database storage you have to also use this option. So now another the most common method of the storing data in iOS application is in property list file. Now in documents, in the property list contain either an is a dictionary or an array inside which there is a archive data. Now you have to save, means you have to use as a property list in between. For the local database storage you have to use a different types of dictionary and different types of array. So now it's a collection type you have to use with a property list. Now there are the number of classes that can be archived into that plist file, while the NS array, NS dat, NS string, NS dictionary and NS dictionary mutable. So now here you can see the various options are there. For example NS and the NS dat, NS array. So now it's a Objective C supported. So now in Swift you have to also use a simple array, date, and also simple string, dictionary, and the mutable dictionary. So now these are the options you have to use using the property list. Now next one is the core data. So now simply core data, it's a database framework, it's provided by Apple. So now core data is the method recommended by the Apple for the local storage of the application data. Now by default core data uses a SQLite as it's a main database in the iOS app. So now at that time whenever you create any application, so now you have to see in that option use core data options. So now if you want to use a local database storage using the core data, at that time you have to select these options as a core data. And the internally core data makes use of the SQLite queries to save and store its data locally. Now which is why all the file are stored as .db file. So now here I'm describing the simple difference between the SQLite and the core data. So now SQLite, it's a totally based on the structure query language. So now in the SQLite you have to knowing about the simple DML operations query, it means insert, update, delete, select. But here in core data, here no need to require any single SQL query. So now you have to also call core data, it's a no SQL. So now right now in current market, current trend application development, core data is the most popular local database storage recommended by the Apple. Now the next is NSUserDefaults. So now to save properties in any application and the user preferences, like the NSUserDefault is one of the most common method for the local data storage. Now this is the use to save a log in a state of the user within an application. Now you have to use NSUserDefault option for the simple the log information storing in the local database, as well as you have to also use the confidential information like access token, like as a cache memory. You have to also use this option for the local storage using NSUserDefault. So now there are the different types of local database storage. So now here we are describing the SQLite, property list, core data, and NSUserDefaults. Now in the current application development, the SQLite and core data are the most popular database storage option for the local storage. So now these are the iOS local database storage. Thank you.